Fallout Equestria the Chrysalis, Chapter 24, Part 3. We arrived shortly before noon. I once again wore my regular pony disguise. I'd tucked Emerald's pitbuck away in my bags after confirming that the little cartoon changeling turned into a little cartoon pony when I transformed. A few ponies stood atop the wall as we came up to the town. One of them was Dazzle. She stood the moment she saw us, her ears standing tall and alert. Then they drooped. The gate was already opening by the time we drew near. Dazzle had hopped down to meet us. The look of desperation rapidly turning to grief was heartbreaking.
"Where is she?"
Dazzle asked, her voice catching.
"What happened to Emerald?"
We drew to a halt, right at the gate. Dusty cast an uneasy glance back at us before taking on the duty of passing on the bad news. The raiders had a sniper. Picked her off, right in the middle of us. Dazzle's legs wavered, and she sat down, sagging. The other guards were in the same state of shock and sadness, with tearful eyes and drooping ears. I'm sorry, Dusty said. Tears were building in Dazzle's eyes. My own throat was tightening, and I had to blink several times to clear my vision.
"But why her?"
Dazzle said, her voice weak and trembling.
"She was the nicest.
Her voice caught again, her head drooping. I don't know, Dusty said, but I intend to find out. He stepped up closer. There was a hint of iron to his voice when he spoke again. Where's Amber?
She just left after."
She halted, eyes slowly widening as she looked up at Dusty. Confusion was quickly giving way to dawning realization.
"She had something to do with this?"
Dusty nodded. Yes. She continued to stare, her chest rising and falling as her breathing picked up.
That bitch!
Dazzle trembled, tears starting to roll down her cheek.
"We welcomed her in, gave her a place to stay, and..."
I couldn't bear to see it. I couldn't blame her for growing angry, but as much as anger can be a strong motivator, it can be a very destructive one. Here, in this place, it felt like a blow against everything Emerald had lived for. So I stepped forward and gripped Dazzle in a tight hug, bearing my muzzle against her neck. Maybe I was thinking of Starlight then. It was how she would comfort me. Dazzle stiffened, her breath catching. It was very possible that I had just made the wrong move. I squeezed a little tighter. Then, with a shudder, the tension bled away from her, and she sagged against me, sniffing.
"She was trying to help ponies,"
I murmured.
"She's helped so many. Don't let that end here."
She shuddered again in my grip, but I felt her head bob in a shaky nod. We left just 2 hours ago, having transferred all of our new belongings into the old wagon. We stayed just long enough to seem appropriate, then left. The town still seemed shocked by the news, as if they couldn't process that Emerald was really gone. Dazzle had almost broken down again when Starlight offered up Emerald's rifle. Instead, she pushed it back against Starlight's chest, saying to keep it. I felt a little guilty at having hidden away Emerald's pitbuck. It was entirely practical to do so. If any pony had seen it, there's a good chance they'd want it returned. It was an incredibly valuable piece of arcane technology in addition to any sentimental attachment, but it was also an incredibly powerful tool for my own mission. The mission came first, yet I still felt uncomfortable with that decision. As I watched these ponies grieving, trying to hold on to the values that Emerald had encouraged, it felt selfish. After Dazzle pushed the rifle back, I felt even worse. It was possible Dazzle might have insisted I keep it.
Generosity.
I felt it was unlikely, but possible, and that was enough to twist the blade of doubt. It feels strange to say it about Gemstone, but I was relieved when we finally left. The journey took 4 days. We woke on the second day to see the glow of sunlight creeping under the clouds ahead. By noon, we had passed from the thick and unbroken overcast and into clearer skies, dotted by scattered clouds that blew and drifted in seemingly random directions. As silly as it was, there was still something uplifting about it. The somber mood that had clung to us since Gemstone faded. Part of me wanted to sprout wings and fly up into the glow of the sun, to revel in its warmth while it lasted. By evening, we were passing under the cloud cover once more. The weather turned on the third day. It was no surprise that Dusty was the first to notice the signs, and told us to prepare for rain. "You feel the humidity?" he asked as he tightened straps, bundling up. The rest of us hadn't noticed. "Only time it starts getting humid this quickly is when it's about to storm. Damn Pegasi just let the rain build up till the clouds practically burst. Ain't like they got cause to care." The sky darkened ahead of us, and we watched as a wall of rain spread with tremendous speed, crashing down to the earth like a tidal wave. It passed overhead, and I looked up to see the water descending upon us. The rain struck fast, growing to a torrential downpour in seconds. Visibility fell, and the ground rapidly turned to mud. The temperature plummeted. I huddled under my cloak, throwing on a quick transformation to trim my mane and tail short while adding a good inch of fluff to my coat. It was still miserable, but less so. Our progress slowed to a crawl. Sickle stubbornly pressed on, hauling the wagon through the mud, but even she couldn't keep up the same pace. Dusty had us halt several times to rest before moving on again. Darkness came early. Those of us who fit huddled under the wagon, gaining temporary respite from the rain, though not from the mud and puddling water. Sickle curled up beside the wagon and tucked her muzzle in under a foreleg. Despite weathering the storm all night long, she never once complained. Even with the gear and preparation, we were soaked through. Temperatures dove further during the night, and even the extra fluff to my coat did little to ward it off. Starlight and I spent the night huddled together, sharing a pair of sodden blankets. The rain was still falling in the morning, though it had started to give signs of slacking. We pressed on after an unenthusiastic breakfast. The whole world was mud. Dusty noted that we'd be less likely to be detected in this weather, though from his dour expression I think he wasn't particularly impressed by this moment of optimism. The downpour steadily diminished as we continued on. It had fallen to what I would have once described as an average rain by the time we reached our destination. Once again, we lay on a low ridge, ignoring the mud that soaked into our coats. Our binoculars were up, peering through the rain at the cluster of ancient buildings half a mile away. We'd left the wagon almost a mile back, hidden as well as we could manage. Serenity wasn't much to look at. It wasn't a thriving settlement, it wasn't a slaver base, it wasn't even a fortified entrance to an underground compound. It was a half-built office building with about a dozen smaller buildings around it. Stacks of concrete slabs and pipes were arranged by one side of the building, and the broken remains of a crane lay toppled beside it. Several earth-moving vehicles lay rusting in the mud, while various broken-down cargo sky wagons sat surrounded by empty pallets and broken crates. An open pit that had likely been intended as the foundation of another large building now formed a steep-sided pond, with a bulldozer half submerged in the water. All around the site were a number of temporary structures, much like other construction sites I'd seen during the war. Though, most of the ones here had been broken down and ruined by centuries of neglect. Whatever Serenity was originally intended to be, it looked as if it had never been finished. There were no signs of habitation. There wasn't even any indication that anyone had been there in years. The buildings all looked to be in poor repair or partially collapsed, save for the two that had long ago burnt out, and there seemed to have been no attempts made to repair them. We continued to scan for several minutes, sharing murmurs about not seeing anything. That lasted right up until Dusty grunted. Shit. I glanced over to him.
What is it?
He lowered his binoculars, glowering out into the rain. He slowly rolled his jaw, mulling the situation over. It was obvious that he didn't like whatever it was. Finally, he sighed. "You see the trailer offices there?" he asked as he raised his binoculars again. I quickly raised my binoculars again, setting in on the temporary structures he had indicated.
Yes?
Look closely at the offices just past them. I shifted my view. A single-story building with two broad front windows stood behind those temporary structures. The windows were long since shattered, revealing upturned desks and chairs within. They were a pair of small offices. The faded gear logo of Stapletech was easy to pick out, but I had a squint at the other for a moment before making out a distinctive teal faceted heart with the words Crystal Life Technologies written beside it. My eyes widened.
Oh.
Yeah, Dusty grumbled. My heart had decided to start pounding in my ears once again, and I did my best to hide the sudden excitement. Dusty wasn't gonna share in my enthusiasm after all. Dusty lowered his binoculars again. And you want to check it out, I'm sure.
I need to find CLT facilities.
I quickly replied.
And we know changelings have been here too, so...
I know. Dusty cut in. I can put that together too. Relax. We'll see about getting you your info. I tried my best to restrain my grin.
Thanks.
He just grunted and started to survey the surrounding area looking for approaches. We moved quickly, following Dusty as he guided us through the muddy low ground, dotted with deep puddles. Nobody objected. We were already as thoroughly muddy as we could get. From the low ground, there was a short trot to a rusted-out skywagon, then a dash to the ruined temporary construction office. At each point, we halted, while Dusty peeked around the corner and listened, his rifle up and ready. We heard nothing but the hollow patter of rain on metal. My EFS showed only my friends. The final dash took us across the paved walkway and in through the vacant window of the CLT office. Dusty advanced into the office with a purpose, his rifle held up and level as we passed desks and knocked over dividers. I followed as he made his way into a larger individual office with a desk and terminal. He swept past the desk before exiting the room again, and we made our way to the back room. There was nothing there but a table and some chairs, with several empty bottles lying on the floor. The back door hung halfway open, letting in the sound of the rain outside. We returned to the main room, where Sickle was shaking off the mud caked to her armor. "We'll stand guard," Dusty said, moving to stand behind a desk that gave him a good view out the broken front window. "Make it quick." There was little left to find in the main room. Desk drawers lay on the floor from whatever scavenger had rifled through them, and filing cabinets lay toppled and open. I returned to the larger single office with its terminal. The desk was as thoroughly ransacked as the others. Nothing remained but a few broken pens and other office implements. I turned to the terminal, fetching my own portable terminal and connecting the two devices. I hit the power button, and nothing happened. Starlight was at the rear of the terminal before I had even started to ask, pulling open the back panel. Within moments, a spark battery was clipped in place and the terminal screen flickered to life.
Thanks.
I said, earning a pleased smile in return. The boot sequence finished in moments, replaced by a simple message.
Client's error code 4. Server connection failed.
My own smile faded as I backed out from the error and surveyed what little was there.
It's just a dumb terminal,
I said, starting to frown.
The kind that depends on a remote connection to a server, only that connection is down. The cache is empty too. Some pony must have cleared it out, but...
I stared at the terminal for several seconds, before turning to my own terminal, loading up the data recovery tools. While I got to work, Starlight wandered off. There's one fun quirk about these Arcanotech devices that many people don't realize. Deleting a file doesn't necessarily mean it's gone. The data is usually still there, embedded in the spell matrix, until something else overwrites it. It took only a minute before I'd extracted a text file from the cache.
Error log event. Client's error code 4. Server connection failed. A minor twist. She'll probably be pretty sore for a few weeks, but she'll be fine as long as she doesn't go leaping off any second-floor balconies again anytime soon. As for your other concerns, I'm a little relieved to find someone else with questions, but sad that I can't provide any answers. You know there's a lot of secrecy involved in this collaboration. I assume you got the same stack of NDA papers I did, but it looks like Facet himself is the only one in CLT that knows the full extent of the deal. You remember that mare I mentioned at Side Alpha? That IT pony could dig up absolutely anything I needed? She hadn't even heard it. Heck, she practically fell over herself trying to get info from me. I feel bad that I couldn't help her out after all that data that she dug up to help with permafrost, but I haven't got a clue what's going on over there. And no clue why Stapletech had consultants there. None of them mentioned anything before they left? Or were they just in the dark as you? Sorry that you have to put up with this. I can't imagine how boring it is sitting at a desk for consultation when they're not consulting you for anything. I'll see what I can do over here. If Serenity doesn't need a CLT consultant for whatever they're doing, maybe we can get you back at Paradise Beach, where you can do some good. Hope to see you soon, Skyfrost.
The file ended with gibberish and fragments of the previous messages, long since overwritten into oblivion. I read through the message again. My eyes lingered on the word Serenity, a name from before the mega spells. A name that I haven't heard of at the time. Was Serenity a group that had survived since before the end? Or was this some other group who had taken up their name? I looked up to speak to Starlight, only to stop myself. She was sitting beside an open hatch in the floor, angling her pip-buck to shine her light down below. She noticed my attention, looking up to me and asking.
Find anything? Not really.
I said, standing to walk over to her.
What did you find? Looks like an underground utility accessway like Paradise Beach.
She turned her attention down the hatch again.
You said the terminal was connected to a server somewhere? Well, the cables from it run down here. Might be able to follow it, find the server. If it's on site.
I said, leaning over to look down the hole. A ladder led down to a concrete tunnel some 10 feet below us.
Probably worth checking out, though. I just hope it's not all flooded with rain.
We returned to the main room to fill Dusty in on what little we had found. I remember he was a little hesitant about going down into the accessway, but the early warning ability for our multiple pip-bucks minimized the risk. Things get fuzzier from there. I remember climbing down into the tunnels, I remember dampness and following bundles of cables down dark passages. Then there were some rooms, utility rooms, I think. Machinery. I remember walking alongside a long series of huge pipes. There was some light, spinning in the darkness and shadows. And then I remember Emerald's pip-buck making a sound and displaying something, though I can't remember what. I think I was concerned about it. And then... nothing. Well, ain't that freaking mysterious. Just went down some random hole and can't even remember what happened. Very strange. But we'll figure that out soon. Anywho, let's get on to our nimble donators. Top donators are 630, Only One Thing, Ceru, Orion, and IronSky. Darkside, Rayden, Narwhals, Blackmoonheart, Pastel Skies, Austin Roland, Stuhex, Sword Brother, Mordred, Omicron, Lyrae, Will, Chris, Twinkie, Ridesoul, Badass Waffle, Shadow Moon, Luigi88, Chancellor Crust, Big Smoke 369, and many more amazing people. Thank you all so much for watching this video and live life to the fullest.